Hi, Gordon Andrus here. I want to do a short little video about sharpening uh, angle blades with with the inline sharpener. I have a lot of folks that are having a hard time. These Any kind of angle blade is tricky, but this offset angle blade is especially tricky. So let me adjust the camera and let's get right into it. Okay. That should be good. I'll try and keep my head out of the way. All right, the trick with angle blades is that, make sure we stay in the center here, is that because of the pressure and that angle, it wants to carve off the heel before the point, and it'll, if you're not watching it, and I'll show you what I do to maintain that angle across the angle blade. But if you're not watching close, it'll just turn into a spear point and ruin the blade for you. This one, I like them to have a fairly flat angle on them, and so what you need to do to get it adjusted is I'll just slightly make sure we're in frame here. Okay, these are the screws that adjust the tightness on to hold the knife into the jig. So, and also be real sure that you don't tighten these down too tight. They'll get ruined because they have a nylon tip on them. That nylon will grab that knurling and it hardly takes any pressure at all. I have this one adjusted now so that it's the right angle. This angle here is correct now. And the way I found that was by just, this is the way that I like to hold the jig, especially for these angle blades, because now I have a hold of just the knife and not the jig, and I can control the amount of pressure that's on the point or on the heel, and the jig is just there to set up the angle, and it'll stay locked in and hold that position. But what I've got to do is, with an angle blade, twist in the direction toward the point. Okay, so I'll get that laying on there flat. I like to put my finger on there and adjust it. I've got little dogs here causing all kinds of problems. Charlie, shh. They're sure that every noise outside is a monster. So, okay, so again, I've got that. I can adjust it that way. I can twist it with my fingers. I can push it down till it's flat. Then I'm going to apply twisting pressure in this direction toward the point. And then just take a little stroke and then check and make sure that I'm cutting at the point. And I can see a reflection and tell that I'm cutting more at the point than I am the rest of the blade. I'd rather start without hitting anything down below the point and then catch that up later if I have to. The main thing is to preserve this angle right here, this angle. Okay, so I'll set that down. This is a 3000 grit lap, and this blade was polished already, so it can be a little bit tricky to find that sweet spot on an angle blade. But if you start at the heel and roll it toward the point, you can feel it resist going any further. So that's where I'll start. And then keeping twisting pressure on the knife while I do this. And I'm just pushing the knife, and the jig is holding it at the correct angle this way. So now I can look at it. I can see that I'm hitting pretty much all the way across, not quite at the heel. And the heel doesn't matter if it gets sharpened. So, but you have to check it often. And if you're using a coarser grit, you've got to check it even more often. Try and maintain these angle blades so that you don't ever have to use anything more coarse than 2000 would be optimal. But if you have to go down to a 1200 grit paper or diamond lap, then you've got to be really careful that you don't take the heel off. So again, I'm twisting toward myself, and then these fingers back here are resting on the jig and on the bushing, but they're not applying any pressure on it. All the pressure is being held by the knife. Now this blade has a little bit flatter angle on it, so there's not very much of the knife coming through. If you find that you want an angle like that, then the plastic sleeve can be marked at that angle, and I have a slight mark on there that you really can't see here, but you could just mark it with a real fine point magic marker of some kind, and then next time you go to sharpen this particular blade, you'll know where to set it. Okay, so then when I turn the knife over, now it's resting on the heel, and I'll just rotate it until I feel that resistance. And you can feel it better if you put your finger from your other hand on there as you bring it down, and it'll stop. So that's where we need to start from, where it's sitting on there flat. But now I'm going to push rotating pressure toward the point, and I can pick it up and hold it in that position and check. I like to wear my optivisors to do this, but I can see it reflecting on there, and I'm hitting just right. So I can go ahead. Now I'm hardly pushing down at all, but I am maintaining rotational pressure toward that tip. And you probably can't see the reflection on there, but right down here at the heel, it's not quite making contact, and that's good, because that will keep us where we're not losing the heel. Now check. Okay. Now on the opposite side, I've got some lapping film. This is 3M, but you can find it. It has an adhesive back on it. You can find it on Amazon, a lot of different places. It's just micro lapping film. And this is 1 micron. This is 3 microns over here. I'm still putting a little bit of rotational pressure toward the point, but this is just polishing it. So I can let it drift back toward the heel just a little bit. And by pushing only the blade, you'll resist this having this rock like that. If you grab too much a hold of the jig itself, then it will have more of a tendency to move. I just let my fingers in the back rest on the knife and the jig and polish that out. I'm getting a good polish. Need a little bit more toward the point. Now I can turn it over and polish the other side. Start at the heel, bring it around till it stops, then grab the knife, and then check. Okay, it's polishing nicely out at the point. Up. You can tell that heel wants to dig in. It just lifted the grit off of that paper, or that film. There, that's pretty much a perfect polish, and that blade is now razor sharp, and I haven't removed any material from the heel. This one, that's about an 80-degree angle, a little more acute than that. That's all I think you need on an angle blade personally. I don't use them. I prefer just a straight blade myself, but a lot of you folks do like your angle blades, so I just find that I have a little better control of a cut if that angle isn't too steep. The steeper that angle becomes, this angle here, the more the knife just wants to stick down through the leather instead of slicing it. So by having the blade offset, let's take this out of here now. Whoops, not the blade, the knife. Take the knife out. And see, that's hardly any pressure there, and it held it just fine because of the nylon tips on those set screws. Okay, so if I have a piece of leather here, let's get a little moisture on it. I'm going to strop it just a little bit. And with these angle blades, if you, again, put a little pressure on the point instead of the whole heel, then it won't want to dig into the leather on you when you're stropping. And you really don't need pressure when you're stropping. Mostly it's picking up some lubricant from the compound. And that'll mean with all the stropping you do, you won't be too rapidly rounding off and shaping the blade wrong. So see, there's not a very acute angle, and what I like about that is I can still bring the knife back toward myself in the direction of the cut and lift its point out of the work. But with the offset, I can see the point a little bit better, and because I don't have as much rotation out here as I would with a straight blade, then I can put a little bit of the blade in the leather and turn it, and I'm almost straight up and down. That is the main benefit of an angle blade. You can make these tiny little cuts just by rotating the barrel, and you don't have to chase the yoke around. but I can still tilt it back and get a really fine cut. So that's the trick to maintaining an angle blade so that you don't ruin it. I would start practicing with a cheaper blade, just a cheaper angle blade, and try and learn how to keep that angle maintained. You can imagine, because this is in straight line with the handle, this back edge, this blade really wants to, see that? If I put any pressure on it, let's put it out at its point, then it comes around and it wants to ride on the heel. And that's what's eating your blade up when you sharpen it. Hope that helps.